Welcome back to Stories from the River, the DeAngelo Burse series, where if you've missed episodes 1 or 2, you can go back and listen to those. We'll still be here. Do those first, because now we're going to get into the Q&A that some of our listeners from the Elevate Your Purpose series still had, and some pretty profound questions. You ready to get into it, DeAngelo?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a little deep, but yeah, I think we can do it.
Awesome. Let's go. All right, let's go. Here we go.
All right.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Welcome back to Stories from the River, the DeAngelo Burse series.
We're here.
Going back on Elevate Your Purpose. If you've missed episodes 1 and 2, you can go back and listen to those now, either on Apple or Spotify, Google, Amazon, or on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. And so right now, DeAngelo, we've really talked about your history. We talked about your talk at Broad River on the Elevate Your Purpose series. And now we really want to, and we learned about narrative identity, narrative audit, and taking the selfie and the reason for that, and constructing your identity. We want to go into some of the questions that were submitted by some of our memory makers.
Let's do it.
And they know your philosophical background.
So
we're
in trouble.
We're going to
Can I say I don't know?
No, they want answers.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Over time, as you have taught narrative identity to others, either in your classes or at your speaking engagements, what have you further learned about your own narrative identity? And then how has it changed?
All right. Yes, the dangers of being on autopilot, and the dangers of not considering what's being written in terms of the stories that you're either telling yourself or that you're telling other people. Most of the time, I see it all the time where that's social media or students in my courses, that there's just this disassociation with that I'm constructing myself. It's these activities and this way of thinking, and it's almost like that people are just on autopilot.
Well, can I ask you about this autopilot concept? Does that mean, like, if you just keep yourself really busy, but you don't profoundly think about anything, you're constructing a busybody or someone who's going through the motions? Or does it mean like that your habits, your daily habits, which are like, I think I read somewhere like 80% of what you do each day are like just repeated habits. Is that what you mean by autopilot in constructing your narrative identity, or is there something else? And then you mentioned mindfulness in one of our previous episodes. Do you need to go through a meditation or prayer exercise or mindfulness exercise to make sure that you aren't just on autopilot? So can you kind of unpack that a little bit?
For sure. So in social psychology, we use this term called automaticity, right? And so from Broad River, how many traffic lights are from Broad River to your house? You probably don't know that. You get what I'm saying? Unless
I might could drive with my eyes closed.
Right. That's right. You're right. So it's much of our lives are navigated automatically without any conscious effort, And so you may have to remind me of your second part of your question. However, what I'm getting at, though, is that I think the same level of automaticity occurs with our stories and who we're becoming. There's just no conscious awareness, right? Or deliberation or being intentional about what's being created. And so people just kind of just haphazardly progress through life without any conscious awareness that something is being created.
Well, how often should people take it off of autopilot and consciously think about their identity?
I don't know if there's an objective number. All I do know is that what's more important than who you're becoming.
But but if you've gone through that process, maybe let's say someone goes through that process when they're 30 years old. Yeah. And is it okay to go like a year on autopilot because you've done the work? You maybe went on a 3-day retreat and you're good, and now you have this objective of who you want to be and where you're going, or is it something like, hey, check in constantly throughout the year so you don't just go on autopilot and forget?
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe that's different for each person, right? I don't know if there's a if there's a template or a silver, a panacea for all of it. However, when you look in the mirror, it's a good, probably a good practice to ask yourself is who am I becoming,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I don't know how regular that is, you know. For me, it's something that I'm constantly aware of. But I do believe that there is something in what you brought out is that there are times when we need to turn off, right? We need to quiet ourselves, you know, and get to a place where we're not always thinking, you know, because too much thinking can be detrimental to our well-being as well, right? So to kind of wrap up that question is that for me, it's I think I spent so much of my life on autopilot, right? In this automaticity mode where I wasn't consciously aware of who I was becoming. And so now that's something that I'm aware of. And,
Okay.
you know.
So with that awareness, has it changed? That's the second part of the question. Like, how has it changed?
Well, I look ahead a lot. I look ahead of, you know, who I want to be, what kind of husband I want to be.
And so you're just checking yourself against that. Am I being the husband?
That's right. Okay. You know, what kind of father do I want to be?
Got
what kind of person do I want to be? You know, and so now I can be more deliberate in that.
Got it. By the way, you mentioned your daughter in the previous episode who got the brain tumor at 5 years old.
Yeah.
Can you close the loop on that story?
Yeah. So sorry I left that open. My daughter's about to go to college. She's doing backflips. She was a gymnast and a cheerleader for all throughout high school. She had brain surgery, and it was very successful.
Wonderful.
And she's a blessing. Yeah,
wonderful.
Sorry about that.
No, I want to make sure I'm being a good interviewer and closing the loop on that. Okay, here's another question. In recent years, has your narrative identity been challenged, or and so recent years being COVID, being what we talked about in the first episode about the racial division following George Floyd, has it been challenged or threatened? How did you respond?
I would say occasionally it does, but usually it's not any. It doesn't involve other people for the most part. You know,
Okay.
It may involve maybe some doubt because certain things are not happening as fast as I would like them to have, or happen, something like that. So during that COVID period specifically, people weren't really booking me to speak that much. You know what I'm saying? And so what I do though is I know that I am in purpose. I know that God has called me to do what I'm doing, right? And so no matter what it looks like, no matter how many times I speak each month or who's booking me to do consulting or coaching or whatever, when it's down, I can just hold fast to I'm in purpose. And I know it without a shadow of doubt, you know? And so because of that, I can rest assured that he's got me, man.
Got it.
Got me.
That's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Okay, you talked about this in the last episode, and so this question did come in. So I want a little bit more on this. You talk about the why connecting meaning and purpose. Can you tell our listeners more about what that looks and feels like?
Yes. So if you think about meaning, you can have meaning without why. You get what I'm saying? Meaning is typically about understanding. And if you and I were having a conversation and you started speaking a language I didn't know, then we would lack meaning there, right? Also, meaning is about value or significance, and I value as a person. I think we have a significant relationship. You know what I mean? So when you think about meaning, it's about understanding. It's about value. It's about significance, right? So you can have meaning without why. You get what I'm saying? But you can't have purpose without why and meaning.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? And so to connect to purpose, you need meaning, you need why, and then it connects to purpose. And so why is about compelling reasons. You get what I'm saying? And so and those compelling reasons, they are the connector to purpose. You get what I'm saying? Directing towards an intentional end.
It's more of a laddering up or constructing up to purpose as opposed to some meaning in the bridge going over here to purpose. It's like purpose is the prerequisites are meaning and
that's correct. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So as opposed to going laterally, my visual is it's laddering.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe helps. I need to change my diagram a little bit.
Well, no, I don't know about that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Another question here. In your session at Broad River, you talked a lot about your family and how experiences with your parents and brothers have shaped you into the person you are today. Our listeners want to know, our audience wants to know, what is your relationship like with your family today?
Oh, yeah. So my dad, I mean, I think they may remember me, talking about issues with my father. I saw my dad beat my mom. My dad was a criminal and all that stuff, right? But today he's a pastor and he and I are almost like best friends, man. We talk every single day and we we joke and we play and we have fun. And so he's my homie, you know.
That's awesome, man.
My mom is so freaking hilarious and funny, and I enjoy being with her. And so we play cards and have fun. So I have a great relationship with my mom. And then my two brothers, we're small, right? And so we don't have this huge family, you know. I mean, everyone has extended family members, but I'm just kind of talking about this little small bubble here. And I talk to my brothers daily, you know.
Okay.
I get the phone call from jail every day because
wow. The older brother's still in jail.
My older brother's in jail.
Okay.
Well, this is a different thing, you know. He got into some additional trouble, but I do talk to them about everything.
Where do your parents live?
So my dad is in that Chattanooga area,
okay.
you know, and my mom, I moved her in with me in December.
They're no longer married.
They're no longer married. Okay. That's correct. They
and,
divorced when I was about 10 years old.
And your younger brother lives where?
He's in Chattanooga.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going with some of these questions.
All right.
So one person who attended said, I loved when DeAngelo shared, you don't find yourself, you construct yourself.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about that on a previous episode here with us. My question is, how does our narrative identity compare to our perceived identity from others, and how do we make sure those align? So the identity we have of ourselves and perceived identity others have, how can we get those to be more in unison or aligned?
Yeah, so that idea of constructing yourself is actually the premise of my book.
Okay.
You know? Before I jump into that question, let me also deal with one other thing. It's easy for guys like me to get up here and philosophize about purpose, you know, in an abstract way, right? But it's more difficult for us to tell people how to find their purpose. Or better yet, if you can construct yourself, then maybe purpose is not something that you merely find. Maybe purpose is something that you can also construct, right? You know, so when I think about narrative identity, first off, it's internalized, right? And it's an evolving story about how I describe myself and how I see myself. In terms of the perceptions of other people, you know, well, I have this thing called agency, right? I can choose to incorporate that into my narrative identity, right? I can flip a coin, do nothing about it. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. Or I can be deliberate and intentional about rejecting it, you know? And so for me personally, I mean, you know, the more sure you are about who you are, the less likely I think that you're going to conflate maybe what others perceive you to be, right, to who you actually are.
So the more sure you are, the more likely it is to be aligned. What others see. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that if the goal is for that you want others to see something that's real, you know what I mean? Like then hopefully that's not being, you know, there's no misperceptions happening about who you are. You see what I'm saying? But I think what I'm saying is that other people don't determine who I am. You get what I'm saying? You know, and other people's perceptions of me don't determine who I am.
So you're saying you really need to spend more time focusing on who you see yourself as,
right,
regardless of what other people see you as.
They may not need to be aligned.
I got you.
You get what I'm saying?
I got it.
Right.
You mentioned this word agency, which to me is something that I hear more and more I feel like the last year or two, I've heard agency in high rotation, high frequency, where I probably didn't hear it before. So for those who may not know what you're talking about, what is agency?
Agency is about will. It's about volition. It's about being able to make a choice, right? And so that's typically in the psychological literature, and that's what I mean is that, you know, we are free agents, you know, and we have the ability to choose and to not choose and things like that. So it's all about will and volition.
And agency is so important to people. It gives to have their own sense of empowerment or direction over their own lives and how they spend their time, what they are, and who they are, right?
Yes. Well, they're free agents, whether they recognize it or not, right? And maybe you're thinking about autonomy, you know, there. And so sometimes they, you know, we're in work positions or whatever, they may not have the autonomy that they want to have. But regardless if they don't have that autonomy, they still have agency.
I got you.
That's just a part of the package, the human package.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Well, because they have the agency to respond to any circumstance.
That's right.
Even if they don't have the perceived autonomy that they want.
That's
I
right.
do see those connected a lot.
That is, that's right. It's right. And so, the agency may say, hey, listen, if I don't have the autonomy that I want, then maybe I need to go look somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. Okay. A couple more questions here.
Yeah.
How can we take the narrative audit and utilize it to build a future narrative?
Yes. First off is realizing that you don't find yourself, you construct yourself.
Got it. You
right?
said that
so
before.
You do not find yourself, you construct yourself,
Got
right?
it.
And so in a sense, you are an architect of you, okay? If you are an architect of you, then you can take that narrative audit and you can do work on you, So what do you see? Here's the deal, Charlie. When I first started speaking, I wasn't as good as I am today. But what I did was I saw DeAngelo, let's just say when I started, probably like in my early 30s, let's say 30, let's just give an example, 32, all right? That's DeAngelo 3.2, all right? Then what I could do is I could say, okay, well, what does 4.0 look like? How does he move? How does he act? How does he talk? How silly is he on stage? All I have to do is act like him for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I can go back to being 3.2. And then what happens is that 4.0 DeAngelo gets sticky.
Yeah.
And I become more and more like him because that's what I see. That's being the architect.
Yeah. That goes back to doing that gap analysis of yourself, which I thought was really powerful that you talked about.
Yeah.
So finally, a question that this person wanted to ask you personally before we ran out of time was, as a professor, what is the best thing you have learned from your students in regards to purpose, meaning, why, narrative identity?
How much they need it. I was showing my wife, every year the students get to evaluate me, and one student said that DeAngelo is the most, I think she said, I think it was a she, I don't know who it was, but most of the course, the students were females in this course. He's the most inspiring person on the planet, right? Wow. And then the other person said, I got closer to Christ, as a result of being in this course. Now, I wasn't proselytizing, I wasn't preaching. There was this element of just catching who I am, And, you can be taught, but you can also just be, you caught, right? You catch something. And so for me is that to be forever mindful about that people are catching me, catching my narrative identity, catching who I am. And so we posted this post on social media about creating a life that's positively sticky, And so I think to kind of sum up that question is that understanding how much my students really need it. They're there, they're exploring, they're trying to learn, and that it's okay to be a different professor, And I've challenged, I probably could have lost some jobs because one time I walked in, I pulled up a chair and I said, let's just talk. Ask me whatever you want to ask me. Let's just talk, right? And I noticed when I pulled up a chair, when I kept it open like that, they asked way more questions about depression, about motivation, about relationships. So students are there and they're searching. They're trying to figure out who they're becoming, And so for me, I take pride in helping them discover that, and create that as well.
What's really interesting to me about that answer, DeAngelo, is I'm reflecting on what you shared from when you were ages 19 to 27.
Yeah.
And how much, when you were in this self-discovery phase yourself, you probably would have appreciated a professor just like who you are today, because you were searching. And so what you just answered is, I've learned from them how much they need it, but I'm thinking about younger DeAngelo and how much I think you needed it as well.
I did.
And it's so funny that that's the cycle is kind of like complete. Like you're now looking back, realizing how much they need it, but I think you needed it too. And you discovered it. And I think that's what you're giving back to your students, maybe even subconsciously what you knew that you needed all the time at that point.
I think you're spot on, Charlie. Wow. I really do.
Okay. So right there, let's conclude episode 3.
All right.
Let's come back for episode 4. We'll round it out. Those are all the questions that didn't get to ask at Elevate Your Purpose series. Okay. And I've got a few more questions. Join us for the final episode of the DeAngelo Burse series. You want to come back for one more?
Let's do it, man.
Let's run it back one more time.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.